Okay, it's now 12 o'clock. I don't know why that. Like that. I'm sorry. Okie doke. We are now live streaming. Today we are back on track and we're going to be talking about divorce.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay. So we are going to be oh wait, I didn't share this. Let me share.
So. I didn't read that little signature.
Okay. What is a Jewish divorce? Okay. So divorce happens after marriage. Okay, you cannot be divorced if you never got married. That should be kind of like clear. Why don't I see the participants here? That's weird. Oh, show video panel maybe. Oh, there you go. Okay. So once you get married and you decide that you do not want to be married anymore, you could get a divorce. In Judaism, it's really not that simple in a sense that the woman can ask for a divorce, but she doesn't grant a divorce to the man. Okay, it's the man that grants the divorce to the woman upon his will. It's not egalitarian. It's not pro woman, and that's sort of like the premise of how it is. Okay, that's Jewish law. So we can argue if it's fair or not, and in my opinion, it's not fair. Okay, but that's if we want to understand it, we need to come from that premise to begin with. Okay, now if there would be an Orthodox rabbi here, they might say, well, that's not true, Rabbi, that you say it's not fair, and come up with different reasons of why this is fair for both sides, etc. That's more apologetic. I'm not into that. So I'm laying the facts as at least as the way I interpret them. What it means is that when a couple, decides they can no longer live together, and in ancient time, it was really when the man decided that he wasn't interested in being with the woman anymore, or in more rare cases, when the woman decided she's had it with this man, so she would go to a rabbinic court and ask them to persuade the husband to give a divorce. So in all these instances, the husband goes and delivers a divorce to the woman in the following way that we will discuss. Okay, so that's sort of like the premise. The Bible is the first source we see about this in terms of divorce. And the word divorce appears, first of all, with the priests. Okay, and the laws about the priests, the laws about the priests in Leviticus 21, verse 7, are they, which is they, the priest, shall not marry a prostitute or a woman who has been defiled, neither shall they marry a woman divorced from her husband, for the priest is holy to his God. The priest has to marry a virgin, okay, according to this, for whatever reason. We're not going now into the laws of the priesthood, but a prostitute is someone that slept with another man. A woman who has been defiled, raped, or anything like that, cannot marry a priest, nor shall a woman who was divorced because she was already married and and had sexual intercourse with a man. So from here, we learn about that there is divorce, okay? And this is also important to notice because we know in the Catholic world, I think up until today, you're not supposed to get divorced, right?
Right.
I never exactly figured out, like,
They
the Catholic, it's different than the Protestant, right?
They just call it annulment.
Annulment, okay. But I think in general, there's a great objection to divorce in that section of Christianity. And the more a clear law about the actual divorce that has to be handed over is in Deuteronomy, chapter 24, verses 1 to 4. When a man takes a wife and marries her, if then she finds no favor in his eyes, because he has found some indecency in her, and he writes her a certificate of divorce, which in Hebrew is Sefer Kritut, okay, and puts it in her hands and sends her out of his house, and she departs out of his house. Okay, so here is a whole process of a ceremony that's described in the Bible when the man finds no favor in this woman anymore, and the rabbis kind of like argue, what are the grounds for that? Could it be any reason? Some rabbis say, and some say no, it has to be an indecency, it has to be something proven, etc. So there's like a debate among the rabbis, and the ones that allow it for any reason are in the old age. They were less pro the woman, because if you release a woman with no husband and no financial security, except for whatever she gets in the ketubah, you're putting her at risk. So if there's no reason, and you're divorcing a woman, you're putting her more at risk. But in any event, it's clear that the man is the one that is in charge of this process of divorcing, and he writes a certificate of divorce. So there's like a specific wording that's probably implied here, that it can't just be that he says you're divorced. By the way, in Islam, okay, at least from what I know, I'm not really an expert on this, but I know that to divorce someone, you just have to say you're divorced a few times, and that's it, and then she's divorced. And it could happen also at the heat of the moment. So the point here is, like, it doesn't happen in the heat of the moment. He needs to write it down. He needs to, people were illiterate back then. He would need to have a scribe, okay? So and the rabbis even added more obstacles. He has to go to a rabbinic court. It can't just happen, he's upset with his wife about something, so he says, I'm divorcing you, and that's it. It's divorced, okay? There's more of a process in that sense, in order to protect women from just being divorced and abandoned in the world, which would be an economical disaster for them, at least in the old days. And then he puts it in her hands, and that's also something interesting, that he needs to put it in the hands. And today, and we're going to see later on, there's like a way of actually delivering the divorce until today, which is in the hands. I don't know if anyone has ever seen that. I'll show you some photos of that. So put it in the hands, it's one of the rabbinic requirements of how to do the divorce, because they're taking the biblical verse here in a very literal way of what needs to be done. And then he sends her out of his house, okay? So all she really gets, is her ketubah. You remember we talked about that when two people get married in Judaism, there has to be a ketubah. There has to be a certificate that arranges the dissolvement of the marriage and guarantees the rights of the woman. So she gets a certain amount of money, And if she has kids, she has to get alimony and things like that that are written in the Ketubah that the rabbinic court makes sure that she gets.
Can we ask a question or
Yeah, of course.
later?
No, you can ask a question.
Like in ancient Judah, it was like men they had few wives, or they had one wife and concubines. Wives,
So
like
you could have
wives.
more than one wife in ancient Judaism, okay? And then what we studied when we talked about marriage before the high holidays is that at the year I think 1095, Rabbeinu Gershom in France or Germany made a decree that you can no longer marry more than one woman. Okay, so that law changed.
At a time.
Okay?
At a time.
At a time, yeah.
What
So,
century
but you
was
could-
it? when
You have
they
to
changed?
divorce
Right.
that woman and then
But you could
remarried.
still,
Ninety-five.
it's acceptable in the community to have concubines or.
To have concubines was acceptable in some communities, like in Sephardi communities, it was more acceptable. I'm not sure about Ashkenazi communities. We have some evidence that even some Ashkenazi
So
communities.
Rabbi, so our Abraham, he had one wife, Sarah, or
He had one wife, Sarah, okay, and Hagar was the mistress of Sarah. Okay, she was Sarah's property.
yeah.
And she gave her to Abraham, and that's how Ishmael was born.
But after all, she returned when Sarah died.
No, she
She
did not
came-
return. He never remarried her. He married someone else named Keturah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, let's go back to the issue of the divorce. Okay, so this is really the verse that talks about this, and then what is interesting is this addition here, verse 2. And if she goes, this divorced woman, and becomes another man's wife, and the latter man, the second husband, hates her and writes her a certificate of divorce and puts it in her hand and sends her out of his house, or if the latter man dies, took her to be his wife, okay, then her former husband, husband number one, who sent her away originally, may not take her again to be his wife after she has been defiled. For that is an abomination before the Lord, and shall not bring sin upon the land, the Lord of God. Okay, so that's interesting that if you divorce someone and then she remarries someone else, and then that person divorces her or dies, you cannot remarry your original wife in that sense. Okay, so this is basically what the Bible tells us about divorce, which is not a lot. Okay, which is very interesting.
Does that still stand?
Here, right?
Yeah, that still stands. You're not supposed to do that. Yeah, it's like a biblical law. It happens. I've heard of people that got back together, but I don't think they got married.
Mostly on what channel on television that always has those kind of movies?
Oh, the people that you get back.
Oh my
Yeah,
God, of course.
yeah, right.
I don't watch those things. What channel is it?
I don't know.
We'll talk about that after class. Okay. Okay, the next issue that I brought here is who gives the divorce, and that's the power of men. Sorry, there's a spelling mistake. Power of men over women. So as we see, and I emphasized also at the beginning, the divorce is given by the man to the woman, and she does not divorce him. There is an instance where a woman who wants to get divorced could appoint a court of law to go to the husband and ask to get a divorce. Okay, so she can initiate the process, but again, it's the husband's decision, and this creates a lot of problems, especially in the modern era, where husbands who are not interested in giving a divorce to a woman who wants to get a divorce could really hold up her whole life. And that is the problem that I wrote here.
That's when she becomes a reformed Jew.
And that's the problem of being an aguna. Okay, aguna comes from the word ogen, which means anchored. Okay, so someone who's anchored, like a ship that's anchored, can never sail away. So you're like anchoring this woman, okay, but not by not letting her be divorced. And we're going to talk about different solutions that the rabbis have come up to situations like this. But the rabbis decide to give the will of the man a very strong position, almost like a veto in that sense. And that's been debated in the Talmud over and over again. And there's some ability for the court of law, the rabbinic court, to take the authority of the man, okay, and sort of like revoke it from him and to force him to divorce the woman. There is that ability. It is in the Talmud, and it's interesting to see that throughout the centuries, different rabbinic courts have used this authority of them. But lately, especially in the Orthodox world, that ability of the court has really stopped, and they give the full ability to the man. And if the man is not willing, under any circumstances, to give the divorce, they keep the woman can be kept as an aguna. She could be anchored for her whole life. And they're very, very sad stories like that. And we'll talk soon about the different solutions to that.
Rabbi, we had a member of our synagogue, friend of mine, who separated. Her husband went off and was having a great time, and she found somebody to get married to, and he refused to sign a get. But he finally was pressured by the court. This is, come on now, what are you thinking? You've got somebody, she wants somebody, she'll leave you alone and she'll do all right. And it worked that way, just with pressure. I don't remember exactly because it's been a while, but
that's good to hear. And
the rabbi pressured him to.
yeah, our rabbi.
Very interesting. That's good. Yeah. And basically, that's usually what's done. The community rolls up their sleeves and goes up to the man and talks to him. Sometimes you threaten him. Sometimes, and the rabbinic court threatens them. Sometimes they even, in Israel, because the rabbinic court is mandated by the state, they even get the authority to revoke his driver's license. There are instances of men put in jail. They still refuse to give the divorce, but after a while, there's like, okay, I don't want to be in jail anymore. There's some crazy people that's there, Yeah, there's just like that's their life mission is to make their wife miserable, and that's that's really rare. But and there was like the big campaign a year or two ago, shaming like someone who wasn't giving a divorce to his woman, and his name was like all over the network, and it kind of like ruined his business and everything. So they're trying like every possible way. So that's good that the society is behind this and is in favor of the women who are stuck, but it still doesn't solve the halachic issue that the man has all the power and that the rabbis give him all the power. All of this could be solved if the rabbinic courts would have been willing to use their authority, which they have according to the Talmud, to revoke a marriage, or to force the husband to give the get. And once he says, I'm willing to, he cannot retract it, which is also part of the problem. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, I'll give these out afterwards. Very interesting.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
is there any provision or anything? What about children? Is there of a marriage?
What do you mean?
If there's a divorce
If there's a divorce, yeah.
and
So what
the
happens to
wife
the
is
children?
thrown out, do the children have?
Oh, okay. So so the rabbinic court today does the divorce only after the couple has agreed on what's going to be with the children, what's going to be with the property, that the couple has. So there's a whole agreement, okay? And after there's an agreement, only then can the divorce be issued.
Okay.
Okay.
So
And in
then
ancient
you
times,
just
the
can't
man
say
would give the
Tuba.
ketubah to the woman, but they would also have arrangements with the kids. And I am not exactly aware of what happened to the kids like in ancient times. I think they might have stayed with the husband a lot of times, and his family, like his
Everybody
sisters,
lived
everyone
together.
lived like together. Yeah, so the woman would be pretty much deserted in that sense. So that's why she was much more vulnerable in those days, and that's why the rabbis wanted to make sure that there are some protections to her.
It just seems odd. There are so many places in the Talmud where things are laid out as far as fairness and what's right and what's wrong. But when it comes to divorce, it's like
It's true. I mean,
there's
and
nothing.
and look, Judaism hasn't started off as an egalitarian religion. Okay, neither did Christianity or Islam. They're based in an era where it's not 20th, 21st century like today. Women are still fighting for their rights now. Obviously, we're much better placed in that sense, at least in America, at least in California, and but it's not like that all over the world yet. So still,
We're spoiled.
but this is the base to the discrimination against women, and divorce is one of the more clear ways where it's really more difficult.
Is it
in that
biblical
regard.
that, I got this in my head, that Saul in the Old Testament had a prayer, I thank thee, God, I was not born of thee a woman?
Oh,
It's in that thing.
Did I make that up?
I
And
don't
then I
know.
went to
It's
look
somewhere,
at
No,
it's
no, I
somewhere
think it's
in
when
there,
you
but
put
I
on
don't
to
know.
fill in, I think.
What?
When you put on to fill in, I was glad I was not born a woman.
Oh, in the morning prayers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It goes along with that line. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
in the book of Matthew, in the Christian religion, I went to a high mass wedding and they quoted Paul, who used to be Saul, the original chauvinist. A silent woman is a gift of God. That's in Matthew.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is.
All religions
It's
have
a
that.
patriarchy
hope for what they
everywhere.
want.
Patriarchy.
That's why I was with Bella Abzug marching for the ERA.
Okay.
A lot of good that did.
Good. Okay. So now I want to talk about the writing of the get. Okay. Which is also interesting. That's on page 277. If you have the book of the Observant Life, which we always like to use, and the content of that is on this day and day of the week, this day and day of the month. Okay, and in this city. And that is located on the river. You need to write like which river, also known as, like you have to be very exact when you give a divorce and when you write someone's name. And then you write I, like the person who's giving the divorce, who's also, and then you write the name, also known as, and then you write the nicknames of the person. So it has to be very, very precise and exact also on that. Son of, and then you write the name of the father, also known as, and you write the name of the father as his nicknames, etc. Who's present in today in this city, who's located at this place, etc., by this river, etc., etc. Do willingly consent, being under no restraint, to release, set free, and put aside you, my wife, and that the name of the wife and her nicknames, and the daughter of and her father's name, etc., who's present in this city, etc., is located in this river, etc., or situated in this near this source of water, like very exact details. So to you, my wife, who has been my wife from time past until now, I do hereby set free, release, and put you aside in order that you may have permission and the authority over yourself to go and marry any man you may desire. No person may hinder you from this day onward. You are permitted to be married to any man. This shall be for you, for me, a written bill of dismissal and a legal document granting you your freedom in accordance with the law of Moses and the people of Israel. So the divorce has to be written exactly in these words, and it has to be written by a scribe, okay, who is called a mesader gitin, someone who fixes the get, who writes it in a very particular way. You have to go through a course to learn how to do this, and there's like you have to write the words exactly in a certain line. There's a way of how to write the names in Hebrew, and it could be very complicated if you're writing, like English names or Yiddish names, etc. And if there's any mistake in that bill, the divorce is annulled. It has to be written again. So it's a very meticulous process. It has to be done.
In the get, it says that then the woman is free to go and marry, but yet she would not be eligible to remarry, right? Because of the
Why?
virgin thing and the previous marriage thing.
Oh, she can't marry a priest.
But
She
also,
can marry anyone else.
oh, so it doesn't apply to everybody. Okay.
Yeah,
So-
she can, just a priest. She cannot marry.
So Rabbi, this get is written with the same care that a Torah is written.
Yeah, because we don't want anyone to come and then say, "Oh, this divorce is not proper," so you're still married. So that's why it has to be very, very exact. It's really to protect the woman in that sense.
Mhm.
Okay, so also the man cannot retract it. The man also in the divorce ceremony, the man has to repeatedly say, I'm giving this out of my free will. I haven't signed any document that annuls it, and if I have, it's annulled as well. And what happens in the court of law is what determines. No matter what other deal he made with anyone or anything like that, he cannot revoke it afterwards.
Does Israeli civil law follow rabbinical law?
Yes, sadly, the rabbinic law is the law of the state of Israel. There's no civil divorce in Israel, which makes things very problematic in that sense. The only way to get divorced in Israel for a Jewish couple is through a religious court. So it makes it always more difficult for the women.
How about here in the United States?
Okay, so in the United States, okay, we have the problem that people get a civil divorce and they're not aware that they should also get a Jewish divorce. Okay, so I've heard, I've had some women come to my office and, after 2-3 years of marriage, and now, they're starting to date again. And it was like, oh, do I need a Jewish divorce if I ever want to remarry the person? She says yes, and then go and find a husband. It's not easy to do that. So doing it as part of the divorce process, okay, is very important. I don't know exactly the civil law here in America, but I do know, I was told by rabbis that it addresses this issue. Okay, so if one of the spouses would say, okay, I insist that there's a Jewish divorce before the other divorce is signed, the court would honor it and will allow that to happen, understanding that, each religion has its own issues, so they don't want to, just deliver the civil divorce. But it creates more complications in that sense, because sometimes the civil divorce happens, and then the Jewish divorce can happen just a year later, and there are different issues in that sense. There's an expert on these issues, Rabbi Dan Shevitz, who heads the Beit Din, the rabbinic court of the conservative movement in our area, okay, in Los Angeles, South Bay, I think Southern California. And he's really an expert on these things. So he writes these divorces and issues them, or in the case that the husband is refusing to give a get, annul the marriage. You remember we talked about that when we talked about marriage, etc. So to annul the marriage is one of the ways to do that, and that's called hafka'at kiddushin, okay, which is like annulling the marriage.
Rabbi,
What happens? Yeah.
Oh, excuse- I heard something from Israel, like sometimes people go abroad, they divorce abroad, or they marry abroad, and then come back to Israel, like already it's done.
Yeah, so they would get divorced. They could go to a rabbinic court abroad that is recognized by the state of Israel and get divorced there as well. But if they only have a civil divorce from abroad and they go back to Israel, they would have to get a Jewish divorce as well.
Okay, so what you're saying and everything you're saying today really applies. It applies to Israel. But
No.
no, but I mean, if somebody gets a divorce in the United States, a Jewish couple,
Yeah.
and the woman does not get a get, let's say she's maybe a Reform Jew or she's not
Yeah.
a practicing Jew, and goes on and gets married again, whether in a synagogue or by a justice of the peace or
Yeah.
something. I mean, the second marriage is still valid in legally, isn't it?
I think it is, and I think the reform movement would do a wedding like that, but the conservative and Orthodox movement would not recognize that marriage and would not look at this couple as a married couple. I don't know, and but I think a civil marriage is possibility, and also in the reform movement, they don't require a Jewish divorce.
Rabbi, it was maybe like 20-something years ago. I was in Israel, so we ended up in Bedouin's, how you call this, tent.
Uh-huh.
We were a group, maybe like 20 people we were. And this guy, this Bedouin, he was sitting in carpets and pillows and all those. And then he said, like, if he says 3 times and others hear this, if he tells his wife in presence like other 3 times, I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you, this is enough.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
This is
that's in Islam. That's how you could do that as well.
Bedouins.
Yeah. Now there is some leverage for the woman. She could refuse to accept the divorce, and then the man is kind of like stuck. He cannot remarry anyone if the woman refuses to get a divorce. So there's not, again, it's not an egalitarian system, but there's some reciprocity. Reciprocity, okay?
Yeah.
It's a hard word, right? It sounds had a hard time. And in that sense, okay, the man wants to divorce the woman, but she says, I'm not willing to accept the divorce. So he's stuck in that sense as well, okay? But it's still here, it's interesting that the rabbis said, okay, it's true, she cannot marry, but it's not a biblical prohibition, it's only a rabbinic prohibition. So they came up with this interesting idea. You're able to sign, if the man is able to sign 100 rabbis, okay, that he can remarry, that he can marry a second woman, okay? And these 100 rabbis are in 3 different countries, which back then was very hard to get, okay? So then he could marry a second woman. These cases are rare,
Yeah.
okay, very rare, but it happens. And again, it shows us the nature of the system, which is not egalitarian in that sense. So that could happen as well, and that's called Heter Mea Rabbanim for men. Heter is the permission, and Mea is 100, and Rabbanim is rabbis for men. So there is a way for a man to get married a second time, even if he's not divorced. But it's a difficult one. So in that way, a woman does have a lot of power as well to negotiate on that divorce. I want to share with you, okay, a very interesting, I think it's like 15 minutes, although we might skip some of it, okay. Whoops, wait. Okay. I want to make sure that everyone
What is a get? According to Jewish law, a married couple becomes divorced with the giving and receiving of a get. This video will explain the process of a standard get, where the husband and wife are both present. What is a get? According to Jewish law, a married couple becomes divorced with the giving and receiving of a get. This video will explain the process of a standard get, where the husband and wife are both present. What is a get?
Okay, guys, okay.
This video will explain the process of.
Let's see if I could maybe let's see if I unmute here. Do that. How do we do this? I wonder if I close this, will it still see what happens if I close this, okay? Okay. Okay, let's start this again. Okay, now I want to share the screen and share this and this. Okay. People on the Zoom, if you can't hear this,
What is a get? According to Jewish law, a married couple becomes divorced with the giving and receiving of a get. This video will explain the process of a standard get, where the husband and wife are both present. The Torah says, "V'kasav la sefer krisos v'nasan biyado," and he shall write her a bill of divorce and give it into her hand. The husband, through the scribe, must write and place the get into his wife's hand. The get must be written specifically for the husband's sake and specifically for the wife's sake, and for the purpose of divorce. This is known as lishmo, v'lishma, u'lishem gerushin. Lishmo v'lishma. The get is custom written for the sake of the couple with the husband and wife's names. Traditionally, last names are not used to identify the parties. Instead, nicknames and other names the parties are known by, as well as their father's names, are used. The officiating rabbi will call both parties to determine the exact names to be used in the get. U'Lashem gerushin, for the purpose of divorce. Therefore, the get can't be prepared before the husband expresses his will to divorce and instructs that the get be written. You should bring to your get a driver's license or other photo identification, your marriage license, your ketubah, and if you were previously divorced, bring your pator, your certificate of divorce. It's also suggested to bring a friend or relative for moral support. Present at the proceedings are the husband, the wife, the officiating rabbi, sometimes accompanied by 2 other rabbis, a scribe, 2 witnesses, and other support people that either spouse may invite. At the start of the proceedings, the officiating rabbi affirms the identity of the husband and wife. He may request photo identification and ask others who are present to verify the identity of both parties. The rabbi explains the get process to the couple. They are handed a script with the declarations they need to make, as well as the questions and answers they need to respond to. Throughout the proceedings, the parties will be referred to by the names the rabbi has determined to be written in the get. The rabbi will need to ascertain that the husband is giving the get of his own free will.
Do you want to give a get to your wife of your own free will without compulsion and unconditionally?
Yes.
A vow binds one to do something they may not want to do at a later date. If the husband had previously made a vow to give a get, he may be compelled to give the get because of his vow. Therefore, the rabbis instituted that we should annul the vows. This is called hataras nadarim.
Did you make a vow or did you obligate yourself either to divorce or not to divorce?
No.
Perhaps you have said something which compels you to give a divorce or not to give a divorce, but have forgotten. We could therefore release you from any such obligation.
If I have bound myself or obligated myself in any way to give or not to give a divorce, I hereby in your presence regret such action.
If you had made such things and had known then that you would regret them now, would you have made them?
I would not have made them, therefore I ask of you to release me.
The appointed bezdin says mutar lach, you are released, 3 times, thus releasing the husband from any such vows he may have made. Any declaration made by the husband prior to giving a get indicating that he is being forced can cause complications or even invalidate the get. The rabbi will ask the husband to declare to the witnesses that he cancels any such prior statement.
Have you ever said anything with intention of rendering this get null and void? Have you ever declared that you are giving this get under duress? Did you ever say that you are not giving the get of your own free will, or something to this effect? Or did you perform any act to render this get null and void?
I have never declared that I am giving this get under duress, nor uttered anything, nor done anything to render this get null and void.
Perhaps you have once declared that you are giving this get under duress, or you have uttered or done something to render this get null and void and have forgotten. Will you therefore make void all such remarks and acts of yours in the presence of the witnesses?
You and you are witnesses. Behold, I am rendering null and void every declaration and implied statement that I may have made that I am giving this get under duress, even when the implication is very far-fetched and distantly implied to the end of such possible implications.
A get needs to be written with the husband's own writing materials. The scribe will present the materials to the husband as an absolute gift to belong to the husband.
I am presenting to you as an absolute gift this paper, ink, inkwell, quill, and all the other writing materials to become your property.
The husband lifts the writing materials, symbolizing his acquisition and ownership of them. The scribe is appointed by the husband to write the get in the presence of witnesses.
You witnesses, you and you, listen carefully to the orders I shall give the scribe. You scribe, take this paper, ink, inkwell, quill, and all the other writing materials, and write a get specifically for me, to divorce with it my wife. And write one get or more, even as many as 100 gittin, all of them, l'shmi, v'l'shma, u'l'shem gerushin, until one valid get is written and signed according to your understanding and the understanding of the rabbi, and comes into my wife's hands, that she be divorced thereby, according to the laws of Moses and Israel. I hereby authorize you to make any corrections in the document.
I shall do so.
The witnesses are appointed by the husband to sign the get and witness it being given to the wife.
You and you act as witnesses and sign the get which the scribe shall write. You shall sign the get specifically for me, to divorce with it my wife. Sign one get or more, even as many as 100 gittin. All of them, l'shmi, v'l'shma, u'l'shem gerushin, until one valid get is written and signed according to your understanding and the understanding of the rabbi, and comes into my wife's hands, that she be divorced thereby, according to the laws of Moses and Israel. I also order you to be the witnesses to the delivery of the get into my wife's hands.
I shall do so. The scribe is now ready to proceed and starts preparing to write the get. First, the scribe will declare to the witnesses that he is making the preparations specifically for this couple.
Listen to me, witnesses. I hereby declare that all the preparations that I am doing are for the purpose of the divorcing husband, who ordered me to write a get to divorce with it his wife. And behold, I am doing them l'shmo, l'shma, or l'shem gerushin.
The scribe makes lines in the paper called sirtot, which are made by placing a board with lines under the paper and pressing down on those lines, making an indentation. Before beginning to write the get, the scribe will declare to the witnesses that he is going to write this get specifically for this couple.
Listen to me, witnesses. I hereby declare that I am writing this get for the purpose of the divorcing husband, who ordered me to write a get to divorce with it his wife. And behold, I am writing it l'shmo, l'shma, u'l'shem gerushin.
Then he begins writing, which takes about 45 minutes. A get has 12 lines. The get specifies the date according to the Hebrew calendar, the location in which the get is written, including details such as the local bodies of water and water sources, as well as the husband, wife, and their father's names and nicknames. The get also clarifies the husband's wholehearted consent to divorce his wife, the wife's agency to marry whomever she desires, and that the document is a bill of divorce according to Jewish law. After the get is written, the rabbi and the witnesses will proofread the get to make sure everything is correct. Once they've finished reviewing, the witnesses are ready to sign. Before signing the get, each witness will declare that he is signing the get specifically for this couple.
You witness see that I'm signing this get l'shmoi, l'shma, l'shem gerushin. Behold, I am signing this get for the sake of the divorcing husband,
who ordered us to sign a get to divorce with it his wife, and I sign it l'shmoi, l'shma, l'shem gerushin.
The rabbi will go over a checklist with the witnesses and scribe to ascertain that everything is done according to Jewish law. After the get is written and signed, the rabbi affirms that the husband still stands by his previous statements.
Do you stand by all the statements that you made to us before the writing of the get?
Yes.
The rabbi now poses several questions to the wife that are similar to those posed to the husband.
Do you consent to receive the get from your husband of your own free will, without compulsion and unconditionally?
Yes.
Did you make a vow, or did you obligate yourself in any other way, either to receive or not to receive a get?
No.
Have you ever said anything with the intention of rendering the get null and void? Have you ever declared that you are accepting this get under duress? Did you ever say that you are not accepting this get of your own free will, or something to that effect? Or did you perform any act to render this get null and void?
I have never made a statement that I'm accepting this get under duress, nor said nor did anything that would render the get null and void. If I did utter such a protest or made such a declaration, I hereby revoke it in the presence of you two witnesses.
A get is totally separate from any financial settlement and divorce agreement, except for the ketubah, as it may be considered linked to the get process. Therefore, we need to clear up the status of the ketubah, whether it was settled or the parties are not interested in pursuing it.
Have you settled all claims regarding ksuba? And if they are unresolved, do you waive your rights to the ksuba?
Yes.
The rabbi explains the procedure to both parties, the process, and how to give the get. The get needs to be placed directly into the wife's hands. If she's wearing rings or other jewelry, they must be removed prior to receiving the get. The rabbi folds the get in a specific manner and makes sure the witnesses can see the get the entire time. The wife holds her hands out in a V shape. It is essential that the wife does not assist the husband as he places the get in her hands. The husband holds the get over his wife's hands and declares,
Harei ze gitech, this is your get, v'hiskabli gitech ze, and accept this, your get. Uvai si hayi megureshes mimeni, and with it you shall be divorced from me, me'achshav, from this very moment, and you are untied and permissible to anyone. V'areya muteres l'chal adam.
The husband places the get into his wife's cupped hands. The wife closes her hands on the get. She lifts the get in her hands and then places the get under her arm. She then walks a few steps before handing it to the witnesses. The witnesses read over the get once more, and the rabbi affirms that the couple is now religiously divorced. Lastly, the rabbi addresses the room.
If anyone has any comment on the kashrus of this get, please speak up now. Since nobody has anything to say, be aware that Rabbeinu Tam imposed a cherem upon anyone who questions the validity of the get after it has been given.
The rabbi hands a document to both parties from the Beis Din that certifies the completion of a kosher get. This document may be referred to as a heter nesuin or a p'tor.
It is customary after the giving of a get to wish a mazel tov. We wish you the best as you embark on the next chapter of your life, and we hope that the years ahead are full of happiness and blessings for you and your families.
Yeah.
So if you're a Reformed Jew or a non-observant Jew living in Israel, there is no civil divorce, right?
There's no civil divorce. You have to go through this process.
No marriage either.
If you're married, if you're not married, you don't have to do that.
No, but if you're married and you're non-observant.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, you still have, that's the only way to get a divorce. And there is a very powerful movie that was done, The Trial of Vivian Amsalem, The Trial of Vivian Amsalem, that was done, I don't know, it was like 10 years ago. And it won a lot of films all over the world. It got a lot of attention. Maybe we should screen it here as well, about this woman who goes to these rabbinic courts and all the suffering that she's going through, and all the hassle, etc. And her husband is trying to blackmail her, that if you don't give me the apartment, the full value of the apartment, I won't give you a divorce, custody of the children, and like really abusing his power in the most, brutal way. And that was, so I just want to show you the trailer and encourage you to watch this film to understand more of the problem of divorce in Jewish culture, but also understand the situation. In old times, she is alone with all the other men in the rabbinic court.
אז מה היא רוצה?
כבודכם, היא מבקשת גט.
אז מה העילה לגט הזה?
כבודכם, היא לא אוהבת אותו יותר.
אין עילה.
אני לא חוזרת.
זה סכום עברה.
He's very upset. He wants her back. She's had it with him. He's been a very bad person. And they don't relate to her. They don't talk to her directly. They talk about her in the court. Okay, look at all the
יודע אתה שאין ביכולתנו לכפות דבר על הבעל בשלב זה.
בית דין בעולם שיכול לחייב אישה הזאת לחיות עם גבר זה.
Her lawyer is trying to help her and claim to the court, like, how can you force her to live with this husband that she doesn't want to live? And then a witness is saying he's a good man.
טוב ובעל טוב גם כן.
הוא שונא אותי.
האישה הזאת לא רוצה אותך.
אז הם לא מתאימים אחד לשני.
בעל למופת.
הוא מתעלם ממני ומהצרכים שלי כל החיים. כי דווקא שור יש לו יותר שמחה ממנה. תלוי, למה אתם מטרטרים אותי?
מספיק.
האם דעתך נחה עליך אם תיתן לאישה זו גט?
לא, כבוד הרב.
I wonder if it's available.
It is. We could do a stream of it. Nice.
Hey everyone, what's happening? Lisa here. After earning over 40.
Okay, that's not part of the. Okay. Oh, what happened to the Zoom? Oh, did I close the Zoom? Oh, what's going on? Is the Zoom still on?
I'm still here.
Watching.
Oh, you're still around. Oh, okay, good. Good. Oh, I see. I can't. Oh, was turn to meeting. Okay, yeah, we're here. We're with you.
There we go.
Yes, George.
I have a question about rabbinic courts in Israel, and less so in the United States. Is there a predominance of a Jewish segment in the rabbinic courts in Israel? For example, are they dominated by Reform or dominated by
No,
Orthodox?
They're only dominated by Orthodox. Yeah, they're
very strict then.
Very strict, and there are different streams in Orthodoxy. There's the more lenient liberal Orthodoxy, more modern Orthodoxy. They are not the ones. They don't get near the courts. It's like really the ultra Orthodox.
How about in the United States?
In the United States, there are different courts. So it's a private court. Really, it has no legal authority.
So you can pick your court
You
if
can
you are
pick
more.
your court, yeah.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah, you can. But the reforms, they don't do they don't have rabbinic courts.
Rabbi, I would like to share something
Yeah.
for entertainment also. So like we came to America and we didn't go to synagogues back in Russia, but in America, it's like you have to belong, especially to community that we came. So for like 22 years that I was there. You know, it was in the suburbs of Chicago. Like, we belonged first in traditional Snap, conservative Snap. So Rabbi divorced with her with wife, Rebbe, and I was friend of hers, so I know this story. Then I came to Rabbi and I said that I cannot be with you because like you divorced my friend. So I went to Reforming Synagogue. I came to Reforming Synagogue, I signed, and then I realized people were talking that she is divorced too, Reforming Rabbi. So and he was so kind, man. He divorced too. Then I started hearing around that some rabbi from Chicago area, he made arrangements to kill his wife. Thank you. So
What's the point? I'm not sure I understand the point.
The point is, isn't this something that rabbis have problems with their wife? And now when I was sitting, so then I was thinking, like right now I was thinking, because maybe rabbis are so busy with congregation, they don't give any attention to their wife.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would generalize.
This is what I got.
Yeah.
There are doctors.
I would
and
not
engineers
conclude that,
same way.
rabbis want to kill their wives more. The average person. But that's not scientific knowledge.
So then the answer is